Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. So, yesterday we have seen beautiful verses glorifying Lord Shiva. And the connotation there is that let us not displease Lord Shiva, who is one of the Lokapala, one of the Gunavatar, who is non different than Lord Vishnu almost. And although he may be my younger brother as brother-in-law, because your younger sister Sati has got married to Lord Shiva is extremely neutral and he may award somebody as a ghastly child. So we come to text 28. Hasamti yasya charitam hi durbhaga swatman ratasya vidusho samihitam yarvastramalya Shvabhojanam Swatma Topalalitam. Translation.
Unfortunate, foolish persons, not knowing that he is engaged in his own self, laugh at him. Such foolish person engage in maintaining the body which is eatable by dogs, which dresses, ornaments, garlands, and ointments. Purport: Lord Shiva never accepts any luxurious dress, garland, ornament, or ointment. But those who are addicted to the decoration of the body, which is finally eatable by dogs, very luxuriously maintain it as the self. Such persons do not understand Lord Shiva, but they approach him for luxurious material comforts. There are two kinds of devotees of Lord Shiva. One class is the gross materialistic, seeking only bodily comforts from Lord Shiva, and the other class desires to become one with him. They are mostly impersonalists and prefer to chant Shivo Aham, I am Shiva, or after liberation, I shall become one with Lord Shiva. In other words, the karmis and jnanis are generally devotees of Lord Shiva, but they do not properly understand his real purpose in life. Sometimes so called devotees of Lord Shiva imitate him in using poisonous intoxicants. Lord Shiva once swallowed an ocean of poison, and thus his throat became blue. The imitation Shivas try to follow him by indulging in poisons, and thus they are ruined. The real purpose of Lord Shiva is to serve the soul of the soul, Lord Krishna. He desires that all luxurious articles such as nice garments, garlands, ornaments, and cosmetics be given to Lord Krishna only, because Krishna is the real enjoyer. He refuses to accept such luxurious items himself because they are only meant for Krishna. However, since they do not know this purpose of Lord Shiva, foolish persons either laugh at him or profitlessly try to imitate him. Hare Krishna.
Now here, Kardama Muni, Kaśyapa Muni, sorry, he warns Diti, his glorifying Lord Shiva continues. Unfortunately, foolish people, they do not understand the personality of Lord Shiva and thus laugh at him. And such foolish people, although they are trying to maintain their body, they laugh at Lord Shiva, who is absolutely has no try to maintain his body. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains Lord Shiva is very difficult to understand. And later we will see Parikshit Maharaj is asking a very interesting question. He says, my dear Shukadeva Goswami, how it is that we have seen that Lord Krishna, the devotees of Lord Krishna, they are very ascetic. At the same time, Lord Krishna is enjoying. And devotees of Lord Shiva, they are very opulent materially and try to enjoy the material world, but Lord Shiva is most ascetic. You see the contrast here. Lord Shiva is very ascetic. He stays in Smashan, he puts the rock on the body, living with, very, very lowly creatures to give them his association. He himself lives very ascetic, but generally the followers of Lord Shiva, they will enjoy a great material opulence. And on the other hand, Lord Krishna personally stays, he's very like Bhogaishwarya Prasad. He's like, he's enjoying the exact wrong word. So this is for the followers of Lord Shiva. But Lord Krishna himself, he is the Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. But the followers of Lord Krishna, they are very ascetic and try to do tapasya. And who is the best follower of Lord Krishna in this case? Shiva, correct. And who is doing the most austerities? So this is the later we'll see Parikshit Maharaj asking this question. And here Prabhupada says there are two types of personalities they get attracted to Lord Shiva. One is either somebody wants to enjoy materially, they are attracted to Lord Shiva, or other class of people is those who want to merge with Lord Shiva, so-called merge. Nobody can become Lord Shiva. And therefore, they are constantly chanting the names Shivoham, 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 and trying to merge in the existence of Lord Shiva. So Prabhupada says these are the Karmis and the Gyanis. Karmis, their interest is Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam, simply interested in Bhoga and Aishwarya. Gyanis, their interest is to become one with the Supreme, one with the Lord Shiva. But the real purpose of Lord Shiva, real personality of Lord Shiva can hardly be understood. And without understanding the personality of Lord Shiva, people foolishly laugh at him. Or if they do not laugh at him, they try to imitate him, thinking that if Lord Shiva can drink poison, we will also drink poison. There are many songs like that glorifying Lord Shiva and drinking that. There is a rapper song which has come up very recently. Aag lagi hai basti mein, Baba apni masti mein. That kind of a song it was, and which is saying that kuch bhi hone do basti mein, Baba here Bholenath, Bhole Baba. He is, but this is a very, very gross misunderstanding and gross offense to lotus feet of Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is the Bhutanath, having complete mercy on the living entities. Text 29. Brahmadayo yat kritasetupala yat karanam vishwamidam chamaya agya kariyasya pishachacharya aho vibhunmanscharitam vidambanam. Translation?
Translation: Demigods like Brahma also follow the religious rites observed by him. He is the controller of the material energy which causes the creation of the material world. He is great, and therefore his devilish characteristics are simply imitation. Purport: Lord Shiva is the husband of Durga, the controller of the material energy. Durga is personified material energy, and Lord Shiva, being a husband, is the controller of the material energy. He is also the incarnation of the mode of ignorance and one of the three deities representing the Supreme Lord. As his representative, Lord Shiva is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is very great, and his renunciation of all material enjoyment is an ideal example of how one should be materially unattached. One should therefore follow in his footsteps and be unattached to matter, not imitate his uncommon acts like drinking poison. Hare Krishna.
So further, demigods like Lord Brahma, Brahmadayo yat krita setupala, they follow the religious rites observed by Lord Shiva. So he is the Shrestha, whom even Lord Brahma follows. He is the controller of the material nature, and he is the great Maha Aho Vibhum. He is a very great personality, and therefore, Bhum's Charitam Vidambanam. Apparently, the ghastly characteristics one may see in the personality of Lord Shiva, like staying in the smashan and putting the rock on the body, they are simply Vidambanam, or simply the imitation. Very, very misleading. Personality of Lord Shiva is very grave, different, and extremely compassionate. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains Lord Shiva is Durgapati, and he is the husband of personified material nature. Goddess Durga, and therefore complete controller of the material energy. He is the in charge of the mode of ignorance and the three predominant deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And in that way, Gunavatara, therefore, he is qualitatively, from the sense of Gunavatara, non-different than Lord Vishnu, because he represents the powers of Lord Vishnu when it comes to the guna of Tamoguna. Later, when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a very nice description where Vamandev, he says to Indra and other demigods, he says that I am busy in other activities. If I do not come, please be happy with worshipping Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, because they are non-different than me, because in a way, they are also Gunavataras and I am also Gunavatara. Okay. So that is the mood being reflected here. He is very great and his renunciation is ideal example. So, although some of his characteristics like drinking poison is vidambanam, but that should not be imitated. So sometimes some great personalities may perform certain activity which look like vidambanam, but those activities are not to be imitated, and those activities should be considered purely as the pastime of that great personality. Text 30. Maitreya uvacha saivam samvidate bhartar manmathot manmithendriya jagraha vaso brahmarshir vrashaliva gatatrapa.
Translation. Maitreya said Diti was thus informed by her husband, but she was pressed by the cupid of sense gratification. She caught hold of the clothing of the great Brahmana sage, just like a shameless public prostitute. Purport. The difference between a married wife and public prostitute is that one is restrained by sense gratification by the rules and regulations of the scriptures, whereas the other is unrestricted sense gratification and is conducted solely by the strong sex urge. Although very enlightened, Kaśyapa, the great sage, became a victim of a prostitute wife. Such is the strong force of the material energy.
So although here Diti was thus informed by her husband, still Saivam samvidite bhartrar manmatho indriya, because her senses were overcome by the very powerful influence of the Cupid. Jagraha vasu brahmershir. She just caught hold of the clothing of the great sage, this great Brahmarshi, Vrishaliva Katatrapa. Look at the translation of Vrishaliva. So, the difference, Prabhupada says, in the difference between a duly married wife and otherwise the person is the restriction in the sensual desires. Right. So, this is very important. And this is one of the reasons why Arjuna did not want to fight a war. Because he was feeling that, or if if there is pranashanti kulastriyah, so culture is maintained by the virtue of character of the ladies in the society. This is very, very important. Just like the house, the quality of the house is directly equal to quality of the mother. In most of the cases, very rarely it will be otherwise. Right. And therefore here, although Diti was very strictly informed by Kaśyapa, and Kaśyapa himself was a Brahmarshi, he was a very great saintly personality, but still, by the force of the situation, he became the prostitute of his, he became the victim of these desires, And Prabhupada says this is how very strong the material nature is. So whenever we see the strength of the material nature, it should directly mean is that follow Vaishnava etiquettes. Okay. So this is very important, that in the devotee circle, and especially when we become closer devotees, it is very important to follow the Vaishnava etiquettes, at least with the sense of the gender separation. Sometimes it may look a little regressive that, what is this? There are some jokes also about this. Once a devotee, he was in America, and this generally in ISKCON tradition is, people, we call ladies as Mataji. And this one Mataji, so this devotee was calling her Mataji. This one Mataji became so offended. She said that if you call me Mataji, I will call you Prabhu, Pitaji. So, such kind of jokes keep happening. But the point here is, it's not Mataji, Pitaji, or this and that. Point here is maintaining a healthy, respectful distance. In the name of familiarity, there is always a chance of familiarity breeding the contempt. And if it is between the same gender, the contempt may go towards a kind of some loose talk or something like that. But the contempt, if the familiarity, excessive familiarity, is between the opposite genders, then so therefore Vaishnavas, they are very keen on following the etiquettes. Of course, it is not somebody's paranoid or extremely uncomfortable or something like that. At the same time, one should not go to another extreme as well, right? So whenever we see the warning there in Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam is going to give warnings, and Bhagavatam is going to discuss the topics point blank, raw, the very vanilla discussions will be there in Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is the history of the universe, and the universe, everything happens, right? Everything is going to happen in the universe once in a while. And Bhagavatam is not going to, cut corners in letting us know the reality. So here Prabhupada is writing a strong purport. And what simply this means is follow Vaishnava etiquettes. Right. Text 31. Saviditva thabharyas tam nirbandham vikarmani natva dishtaya rahasi tayathopa. Translation.
Understanding his wife's purpose, he was obliged to perform the forbidden act, and thus, offering his obeisances unto worshipable faith, he lay with her in a secluded place. Purport. It appears from the talks of Kaśyapa with his wife that he was a worshipper of Lord Shiva, and although he knew that Lord Shiva would not be pleased with him for such a forbidden act, he was obliged to act by his wife's desire, and thus he offered his obeisances unto fate. He knew that the child born of such untimely sexual intercourse would certainly not be a good child, but could not protect himself because he was too obliged to his wife. In a similar case, however, when Thakur Haridas was tempted by a public prostitute at the dead of night, he avoided the allurement because of his perfection in Krishna consciousness. That is the difference between a Krishna conscious person and others. Kaśyapa Muni was greatly learned and enlightened. He knew all the rules and regulations of systematic life, and yet he failed to protect himself from the attack of sex desire. Thakur Haridas was not born of Brahmana family, nor was he himself a Brahmana. Yet he could protect himself from such an attack due to his being Krishna conscious. Thakur Haridas used to chant the holy name of the Lord 300,000 times daily. Hare Krishna.
Understanding his wife's purpose, Kaśyapa was obliged to perform the forbidden act. Why forbidden? Because the time was inappropriate. Esham ghoratama vela. And therefore, understanding his weakness, he offered the obeisances to the fate, natva drishtaya rahasi, and performed the forbidden act. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, from the talks of Kaśyapa with his wife, it appears that he was also worshipper of Lord Shiva. And therefore he knew Lord Shiva will not be pleased by this forbidden activity. So this is very important. We may think that, Lord Shiva may be pleased by drinking some bhang or something like that, or doing, but he is not pleased. And he is not pleased, very, very clearly he is not pleased. And the children born are going to be Hiraṇyākṣa and Hiraṇyakaśipu, who created Utpata Yaiva Kalpate, clear, to the terms, maximum infinity Utpat they created within the universe. So it is one thing that we may think, and it's another thing, the activity, the actual reality. So sometimes we may think that, but no, Lord Shiva was not satisfied with this activity, although he was the younger brother and, very family relation, close bonding. Lord Shiva is neutral and he gave the results to these personalities. He offered obeisances to fate because he knew the child is born of an untimely union will not be a good child. And therefore, Prabhupada says here, but because he was too obliged, and what is the proof of he was too obliged? The excessive glorification that he did to his wife in the previous 10 verses almost. That was the proof that he was also in the great weakest point, and he was too obliged. Contrastly, Prabhupada compares the example with Thakur Haridas. So Thakur Haridas, when he was in Bengal, and Thakur Haridas is born in a Yavana family. And he was such a great saintly personality. He used to chant 192 rounds every day. That is 3 lakh names of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He came from the Yamana background, and he used to chant these names. And the fame and the glory of Thakur Haridas was so widespread that many of the prominent Smartha people that time, they became envious of Thakur Haridas. And to make his vow fallen, they assigned an extremely beautiful prostitute. And this prostitute approached in the night when Thakur Haridas was chanting. And this is a very beautiful description in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we'll see sometimes later. That she approached, and with all the feminine gestures, she began to, in a secluded place, Thakur Haridas was living in a cave. And in front of Tulasi, he was chanting. And she began to say, you are Vaishnava. And Vaishnava means one who will understand the pida parai janire, right? You will understand the distress of others' mind. You are young, I am young. This is the time to enjoy. And I propose that we enjoy. Thakur Haridas, he was very gracefully said that I will surely fulfill your desire. Let me complete my rounds. Till then, you can simply sit here and hear what I am chanting. So this lady sat near Tulasi, and Thakur Haridas, who is not to be imitated, who is like Lord Brahmā appearing here, as the Thakur Haridas in the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, he began to chant and he continued his chanting. And then there was a dawn, and then this lady realized that it is inappropriate because many people will be coming to meet Thakur Haridas Thakur, and she left. One after another, 3 continuous days she appeared there. She came there, and by the 3rd day, she was completely transformed. She fell at the feet of Thakur Haridas and said that actually I was sent to destroy your character, but by your association, I am completely transformed. I want to become your disciple. Please instruct me. Thakur Haridas instructed her that you do the Kaśyapa, you remove your hairs, wear only the white cloth, and all the money, wealth that you have accumulated by this, very unethical profession, distribute in charity completely. Sit in front of Tulasi and chant every day 192 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right. This is the potency of Thakur Haridas. And this lady, from the next day, she just renounced her profession, distributed everything that she had in charity, and she became one of the greatest devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the tradition of, later, there is such a beautiful verse which comes in Bhagavatam, which Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says, Bada Bada Vaishnavagan, the great personalities, the who's who people used to come to take darshan of this, the Vaishnavi who had turned into Vaishnavi by the association of Thakur Haridas. Prabhupada says, Thakur Haridas did not come from a Brahmana family like Kaśyapa Muni had come. Neither he was personally a Brahmana. He was born as a Yavana. But this is the potency of Krishna consciousness, that simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord, one can become extremely empowered. And therefore, the chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, surpasses all other forms of tapasya and all other forms of karma or jnana. Text 32. अथोपस्पृश्यं सलिलं प्राणायामस्य वाक्यतः ध्याय यस्जापविरजं ब्रह्मज्योति सनातनम्. Translation.
Thereafter, the Brahmana took his bath in the water and controlled his speech by practicing trance, meditating on the eternal effulgence and chanting the holy Gayatri hymns within his mouth. Purport. As one has to take bath after using the toilet, so one has to wash himself with water after sense gratification, especially when at a forbidden time. Kaśyapa Muni meditated on the impersonal Brahmajyoti by chanting the Gayatri mantra within his mouth. When the Vedic mantra is chanted within the mouth so that only the chanter can hear, the chanting is called japa. But when such mantras are chanted loudly, it is called kirtan. The Vedic hymns Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare can be chanted both softly to oneself or loudly. Therefore, it is called the Mahamantra or the Great Hymn. Kaśyapa Muni appears to be an impersonalist, comparing his character with that of Thakur Haridas as referred to above. It is clear that the personalist is stronger in sense control than the impersonalist. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Param Drishtva Nivartate. That is, one ceases to accept lower grade things when one is situated in a superior condition. One is supposed to be purified after taking bath and chanting Gayatri, but Mahamantra is so powerful that one can chant loudly or softly in any condition, and he is protected from all the evils of material existence.
Athopasprisya salilam. He touched the water, took the bath, controlled his speech, his breath by pranayam, vagyataha, and then he began to meditate on the Brahman, chanting the holy Gayatri. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, just like one is supposed to take bath after using the toilet, one is supposed to take bath after this activity as well, especially when it is performed at a wrong time. So here it is, description. That's why this activity of is related to the shuchihi or the cleanliness aspect of the 4 pillars of dharma. We know there are 4 pillars of dharma, and there is a tapasya, there is a daya, there is a cleanliness. So this activity particularly is contrary directly to the cleanliness. Prabhupada says Kaśyapa Muni is chanting Gayatri mantra, and Gayatri mantra is to be chanted softly so that only oneself can hear, because there are rules and regulations who can chant Gayatri and who can hear Gayatri. Nowadays, people will just put up the Gayatri mantra on the loudspeaker, or sometimes they will just, but that is not very technically correct, because Gayatri mantra, there are certain rules and regulations who can chant Gayatri and who cannot. So when something is chanted softly, it is called as japa, and when the mantra is chanted loudly, it is called kirtan. So the mantra comes in category of either in japa or in the category of kirtan, except the Maha mantra, which can be chanted softly, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, as one's personal japa, or it can be chanted loudly in the sankirtan along with mridang, kartal, and many other instruments, and that becomes kirtan or mahakirtan. And therefore, this mantra is called as Maha mantra. Why it is also called as Mahamantra? Because there are no rules and regulations for chanting. There is no rule and regulation in terms of place, time, or the qualification of the chanter. While a Gayatri can be chanted only by the duly qualified Brahmana, who is initiated in the second initiation, Hare Krishna Mahamantra can be chanted by anyone and everyone. Srila Prabhupada points out another point here. Prabhupada says, it looks like that Kaśyapa Muni was impersonalist in his understanding. and therefore he was meditating on the Brahman, and therefore he fell short in following the matter of sense control. And therefore Prabhupada says, personalists are more stronger in sense control than impersonalists. Why? Because they have realized the higher taste. Param drishtva nivartate. And because realizing the higher taste, they will cease to accept the lower taste, and therefore they are stronger in their sense control. Prabhupada says, therefore, they are situated in a superior condition. Mahamantra is so powerful that it can be chanted softly and loudly and in any condition, and thus one is protected from evils of the material existence. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Okay.
Prabhuji. No problem, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, small question on this purport. We say that Krishna takes or Krishna comes as 3 times for Prishti and Sutapa, and then Aditi and Kaśyapa, etc. Right? So how come we understand that he's impersonalist at the same time he did tapasya in his previous life and became father of Supreme Personality? Hare Krishna.
The various realms we can understand is that, one thing is when he is like by the process slowly he got purified by the association of Lord Shiva and others. That is one. Second thing is one also can understand is that he felt reluctant to meditate on the Supreme Lord at that point of time because of his innate or inbuilt kind of feeling very lowly or feeling very morose, because in spite of knowing the activity, and therefore he meditated on the Brahman. Okay, that he did not directly. When you commit a mistake, you directly avoid facing the personality, and you may face some energy of the personality like that. Okay, but Kaśyapa remains the great personality, and uh, he he situated in his own glory. So it appears to be impersonalist means at that point of time more so.
Prabhupada also writes in previous part that he might be worshipper of Lord Shiva. So
So this is yes. This is contextual in the sense that in the context of the description, he appears to be worshipper of Lord Shiva.
Okay.
But later we'll see that he's worshipping the Supreme Lord and doing tapasya.
Okay. So it could
This
be
is contextual.
Point of times that he became purified.
In the yes.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Hare. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone.